Hey everyone, I had every intention of going live at 7 o'clock and I had something come up. So I apologize for those of you that were here because I see several of you were here right at 7. So I really do appreciate it. Um, my apologies. Something ran much longer than I anticipated. All right, so I am going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for joining me. And I'll start with this. I was going to start with two things, but I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I'm going to get to as many as I can. All right, but one of the things that I wanted to start with was I've had two people in my Facebook group talk about closing on their home and the appliances being changed. So while you guys are putting your questions in the chat, I just want to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. So one of the things you want to do before you close is do a walkthrough. So this is particularly on resales, but you want to do it, of course, with new construction. But new construction, typically you'll do one walkthrough about a week before closing, and then you'll do another walkthrough the morning of or the day before closing with new construction. But with resales, a lot of times you're doing the final walkthrough, hopefully the day before closing is best, or some people do it the morning of closing. But what's been happening, at least in these two instances, and I'm sure they're not the only two people that this has happened to, is that so say there's a refrigerator, it's usually appliances. Say there's a refrigerator that's supposed to come with the house, maybe a stove, whatever the appliance is going to stay with the house. But when the sellers move, they switch out the appliance. So they will put a less expensive, typically, refrigerator in its place. So you have a refrigerator, but it's not that refrigerator. Or in the last instance, the couple that closed, they traded out the stove, like the range. So they traded that out for a less, attractive stove. So what you want to do is, number one, if you can, in your contract, put the actual appliance that they're leaving behind. So then there's no switch. For the most part, they're supposed to give you or leave you with the appliance that was in the house at the time, because that's the only one you're aware of. But if you want to be, make sure you're crossing all your I's, crossing all your T's, and dotting all your I's, you can put the brand of appliance, all of that information into your contract. And also, I think just doing a walkthrough prior. So you want to make sure you're doing that walkthrough the day before, or you want to do the walkthrough after they've moved out for the most part, right? So you want to see what they've left in that house. And what they have left is probably what's going to still be there. So do that walkthrough. And you could do two. You can do one the day before, you can do another the morning of, just to double check, right? And make sure the appliances that you saw originally are those appliances. Now, if you've already closed and this happened to you, more than likely you're going to have to take them to small claims court to get your money back, or to get some kind of compensation for what they've done. But before you do that, because there's costs involved with that, try to talk to an attorney, and maybe that attorney number one, talk to their agent. Their agent may be able to talk to them and get it worked out for you without any money exchanging. But if they are not bringing it back or not compensating you, then talk to an attorney. Generally speaking, maybe an attorney letter would be enough for them to bring it back without you having to go to court. So I wanted to start with that. Put your questions in the chat and I will answer as many as I can. I'm stay till 9 because I know I was late today. All right, so hey Wanda, hey Cookie. Cookie's like, something wrong with her, because normally I do try all the time. If I'm going to cancel, I try to cancel ahead of time, or I'm here on time. But thank you, Cookie. Thank you for sticking in there with me. Hi Aretha and Wanda. Thank you. I'm going to hold off on realtor recommendations. If you want to email me, it's just info@shahidahill.com, info@shahidahill.com, and I will give you that information. All right, so I'm going to start with questions. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm Shahida Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership so you can confidently buy your first home. I want to make sure. Hopefully I'm not delayed at all for anybody. All right, so let's go with our first question. So the first one is, Yvonne, I've had a credit approval in February 2024, so not that long ago. I'm gonna go back a little bit so you can see me. I did not find a home. My credit approval has expired. When can I go to a different lender without impacting my credit score? So first, Yvonne, I want you to watch a video that Kevin and I did we did it a year ago, I believe, but it's still very, very relevant. It's a good video to watch about how having a second credit pull impacts your credit. It doesn't impact it as much as you think it's going to impact it. And you may not necessarily need to have one. So you did a pre-approval February 2024. It's June. So you have March, April, May, June. It's probably not going to be a great impact to get another one, to get another pre-approval. So I'm not going to say it's not going to impact you. It is going to impact you, but the impact will be minimal. So I wouldn't worry about it that much. So if you're ready to buy, the main thing is just make sure, like, why didn't you find a home? Were there not a lot of homes on the market? What was happening? Were you not ready? What was happening at the time? But it's not a big deal to get another pre-approval. But if you plan on doing, that lender again, it's very easy for them to do it, or they're going to rerun your credit. But this will be a good time for you to do 2 additional at this time. So it's not like 3 different credit pulls. So this time, go ahead and get, if you know that you want to, be in a house in the next 3 months, go ahead and do, go back to this lender, get 1, and then do 2 additional at the same time. So it'll just be 1 credit pull and not, 3 additional, right? Because if you do them all within like 30 days, it's only 1 credit pull. So that's what I would recommend. Sorry, I'm doing multiple things right now. All right. So hope that answered your question. Thank you, Yvonne, for that question. All right. Hey, from Montgomery, Alabama. Hey, Dorothy. My husband's family's from Montgomery. So my mother-in-law, we go there often. My uncle still lives there. So yeah. Hey, from Montgomery. Okay. Real John. Hope I'm saying that right. I put in 2 offers and both got rejected because the sellers went with all cash or the highest offer. Do you have basic tips on getting your offer accepted? So the answer is yes. I'll give you some basic tips. But a couple of things. So anytime your offer is for everyone, anytime your offer gets rejected, always offer to be the backup offer. I've done a video that my last pre-recorded video was all about being a backup offer. So the first thing you should do is always ask to be the backup offer. And if one of those offers falls through, because I had a client, they went with a higher offer and we offered to be the backup. And a binding backup means if that first contract terminates, they automatically have to go with your offer. They don't put the property back on the market for higher offers. You're automatically the next contract. So in this example, we weren't the best offer. We offered to be the binding backup offer. They accepted that offer. And it wasn't until a month later, pretty much, and they had already found another house. They had moved on. And a month later, they called me and said, do you still want the house? So it's like, and you can still look for a house. You're not tied to that contract. You don't have to put any earnest money. Check with your state. For the most part, you just say you're going to do everything after you become the primary offer, because at this point you're just the backup offer. So I never have my clients submit any earnest money. We always say that we're going to do everything after becoming the primary contract, but it's still a binding contract to that seller. So that's number 1. If you're ever rejected, offer to be the binding backup offer. Okay. The other tips I have, when things were so competitive, I know you feel like it's competitive now, but back during the pandemic, it was super competitive. So what I do have several videos about how to get your offer accepted. So watch those. I would say I have at least 3 different videos about how to get your offer accepted, but I'm going to give you maybe 2 more tips. So number one, in this order, sellers, this is how sellers look at offers for the most part. It's not 100%, but cash offers are number one typically. Conventional offers are number two. FHA offers and VA offers are probably about the same. And then anything else after that. So cash, conventional, FHA, VA, that's pretty much how. And usually I would say after FHA and VA, a FHA offer with down payment assistance, maybe number four, because that puts another layer of risk to the seller, because if you don't get your down payment assistance, you cannot buy their home. So I would put those as, in order of priority. If a seller gets several offers, it's usually cash. They look at, because cash comes with no contingencies. They don't have to wait for your appraisal to come through. They don't have to wait for your financing to get approved. They can just, they can close pretty quickly with cash. Then conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, probably number three. And then anything with down payment assistance is probably number four. So if you can, so say you're only approved for FHA, then you want to see, can I get approved for conventional? That would be something that I would recommend. I would also recommend looking for homes that have been on the market a little bit longer, so it's not going to be as competitive. So things that maybe have been on the market for 30 days, if everything is coming off of the market very quickly, then you may want to look into things that have been on the market. Say the average on the market days on the market where you live is 7 days. Then you want to look at things maybe that have been on the market for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and then they're going to be much more negotiable with you. You can probably get some of your closing costs paid. But if you're looking at a house that you know that a lot of people are going to want, and you have some things that won't allow you to be as competitive, then you might not be able to do that. Another thing you can do is try to get in front of buyers before they put their homes on the market. So if you know there's a neighborhood that you're interested in, there are programs that your real estate agent can use, and that'll allow them to see like people that are more likely to sell their homes. And you could proactively reach out to them and see if they're willing to sell or if they're thinking about selling, and then you'll have less competition. But I would go ahead and, make sure you're pre-approved. I'm sure you already are. Your lender can call the seller on your behalf to make sure that they know that your offer is really good. But please watch those videos, because on the top of my head, I put those videos together and I really thought through all of those things. Also in my masterclass, I have a lot of ways to get your offer accepted depending on your market. I would get that too. I hope that answered your question or gave you at least some ideas, but watch those videos. They'll help you a lot. All right. Thank you so much. Let's see. Tracy, why is everything so high today? All right. Hi. I'm interested in buying a condo in New York City. Have been putting money away for a down payment. Can you give me some info? I'm not sure what your question is. About what kind of information you want. So congratulations on putting money away for your down payment. I'm not sure of your specific question, but if you're looking at like how much you need to save, typically I say around 7%. If you're going to do something like FHA or conventional, that'll put you at a down payment of 3.5 or 3% typically as a first-time home buyer, depending on the price point, because New York City can be pretty pricey. And then you'll have some extra money for closing costs. So make 7% your goal as far as saving. And then I have, number one, my masterclass, but I have all of my videos are organized in playlists. So I have a mortgage playlist, a working with your agent playlist, a lender playlist, a how to buy a house playlist. So I would start in those areas. New York City, if you do need help with that down payment, they have a lot of programs to help people buy depending on what borough or what city you're trying to buy in. So I would look at those as well. Thank you so much for your question. All right, Pilar. Hi, Pilar. Thank you for joining me late. And for everybody that's just joining me, normally I go live at 7. Some things came up, so I'm live at 8. So thank you for joining me. Do you recommend buyers purchasing a home warranty as a first-time home buyer? So here's the truth of the matter, okay? Home warranties, although they appear to cover a lot of things, they really don't. I used to, with all of my buyers, I don't do it as much anymore, but with all of my first time home buyers, I used to give them a home warranty. If the seller was not providing one, I would give them one. And because I knew that it covered minor things within that first year. Okay. But I was not expecting it. Oh, if the HVAC goes out or the air conditioning, the heat, the plumbing, that the home warranty was going to cover it. So I knew that if they had this home warranty and they're first time home buyers, some of the little things that may come up would be covered. So I would ask the seller to provide one. If the seller wouldn't provide one, then I would give them one. So I would, for minor things, I think they're a good option. I think the problem is when first time home buyers think that a home warranty is going to cover very expensive things, and typically they will deny it. So I want you to have an emergency fund for things that are major, and then think of your home warranty for minor things that may come up during the purchase. And never take a home warranty in lieu of repairs. Let me say that 3 times. Never take a home warranty in lieu of repairs. Never take a home warranty in lieu of repairs, because what can happen, or what some sellers try to do when they get your inspection and the inspector sees some things that need to be taken care of, they'll say, oh, well, I'll give you a home, or they see some things that are likely to break down soon. They'll say, well, we'll give you a home warranty, thinking that if something happens, so say the HVAC is at the end of life, and say they're going to last typically 20 years, and the HVAC is 19 years. So a home inspector is going to say this property or this HVAC system is at its end of life, meaning it could break at any time, right? And so they'll say, we'll give you a home warranty. And then you move in the house, you have that home warranty, the air stops working, and you call the home warranty company, and they may come out and they'll say, well, this system is 20 years old. Our warranty doesn't cover that. Our warranty only covers, minor repairs that you may need, but because it's 20 years old, we're not covering it. So you don't want to think that you have something that's of value that's really not. I would rather and I've done this before, I'll tell the seller, hey, my client, may have to replace this pretty soon. I know it's working now, but they may have to replace it. I want a credit, or we're going to ask for a credit of $4,000, maybe not to replace the whole thing, but so you can save some of your money that you were going to put to work, closing costs and that sort of thing, to, increase your emergency fund for when it does go out, because it's going to go out. So home warranties are just for minor things. If you don't want to get a home warranty, definitely make sure you have an emergency fund. All right. Last thing before I go on to the next question. The only thing that I can remember a home warranty fixing for one of my clients was they had an electric stove, and one of the eyes of the stove went out. It was working during the home inspection. It went out, shortly after they moved in, and they were able to get that replaced by the home warranty, that portion of the stove, but they still had to pay a deductible. The deductible might have been like $80. So I'm not sure about the cost of the entire repair, but that's one thing that I remember them covering. So minor things they will, and most all home warranties have a deductible. So you're going to have to pay something out of pocket. All right, good question, Pilar. All right, next question, Modu Mane. I know I'm not saying that right, but thank you for joining me. If I buy now, I'll be paying twice my current rent with a better living situation. Should I still buy? I'm going to say no for this, because the thing is, when you are, unless your rent is very low, right? So say your rent is $400 and now it's going to go up to $800. You might want to consider it. But the rules of thumb you need to look at is, I usually recommend that your mortgage not be more than 35% of your take-home pay. So if you can buy a house, so forget about the twice my current rent. If you can buy a house where the mortgage amount is not more than 35% of your take-home pay, you should consider it. If buying a home where you live is cheaper than renting, then maybe you should consider it. And I'm coming out with a video with some of these considerations, but I do have a video already about how much house you can afford or how much house you should buy or what should your mortgage payment be. That's the video that I'm referring to. So I'm not sure what your current situation. I know you're saying that you're going to double your expenses, but your expense could be low. Maybe you have roommates or something like that. So you can have a better living situation without buying a house. Your better living situation could be going from one apartment to another apartment, maybe in another side of town, or moving out from, roommate to something else. So I'm in favor of the better living situation, either with a house or another apartment, if it allows you to stay within your budget. Because what happens to a lot of us, because we want a certain house, we're spending too much of our income for that house. A lot of people are paying 50% of their take-home pay toward their house. They're not able to invest, save for retirement, have an emergency fund. They're house poor. So I want you to avoid that happening to you. So just be smart. You can find a better living situation, and that doesn't necessarily have to be in a house. All right. Thank you for your question. Hometown Heroes program. I don't know that much about it, but it's just a down payment assistance program where I believe, this is my recollection of the program, that the agent gives a bonus of some sort toward, like, they're basically sharing their commission with the buyer because they're and the program may have changed, so you can let me know in the comments, but they're going to give some of their commission toward maybe a first responder, firefighter, police officer, all, teachers, that sort of thing. So it's a good situation, but you don't want to be forced to use a certain person just to get that. So I would just say, make that one of your options, but not your only option if possible. All right, good question. Eric says, I got a house in 2019. Normal people can't afford houses anymore. I think it's definitely more difficult for a lot of people to afford a house right now. But you have to still be smart about it. Just because a lot of prices have gone up and interest rates have gone up, it doesn't mean that you just throw your budget out the window and say, well, to get a house, I have to pay this. You have to just be smart about, are you going to be moving further out? Or you want to try to get a mortgage that's assumable? Like, what are other things that you're going to do to make sure this property is more affordable? Are you going to do a smaller home instead of the home that you thought you were going to buy? Those types of things. For those of you, I am in Atlanta, so I'm not in New York. However, so a lot of people are asking me in the comments, can I help them? Number one, you should get my masterclass. My masterclass is for everybody, regardless of where you live. I know that there are laws that are different, real estate laws, but the overall process is pretty similar throughout the United States. So I would advise you to get my masterclass. I'll put that link in the comments I'll put the link in the comments. But another thing is, you should email me. I'll put my email in here. Email me if you're looking for a referral at this time, because I'm changing my whole referral system, but you could email me. I'm going to put Shahida Hill, info@shahidahill.com. So you can email me there. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. I'm going through. Clark says, yep, I agree. I don't know if you were agreeing with the, what were you agreeing with, Clark? The home warranty? I think that's what I talked long about it, the most about probably. All right. My mother was right. I'm new to the live chat. Why do I feel like I'm so short today? I think it's the way the camera is. All right, I'm new to the live chat. Just wanted to thank you. I closed last week with a condo in Florida. I played your videos every day and they helped me tremendously, and I'm still watching and learning. Thank you. My mother was right, and congratulations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Congratulations. I hope you're enjoying, there's something, and I wanted to try to do a video about this, but it's kind of hard to explain the feeling if you've never closed on a property before. But there's like a feeling of just elation almost, like I have a house and I'm settled. For me, it was like being like stable, like, oh, this is my house, this is where I'll go, I don't have to move every year when the lease goes up, that sort of thing. But there is something different that happens when you first close on your property. So I'm super excited for you, and I'm sure that this is like a really exciting time for you. Okay. Thank you. My mother was right. Hey, Shamika, can you recommend some FHA lenders or a good lender in Texas? I'm looking to buy ASAP. So normally Kevin is somewhere in these comments, but I don't see him. So I'll recommend Kevin to you. He's been on my channel before, but I want you to get 3 quotes. And I'm not throwing Kevin under the bus at all, but you should always get 3 quotes. One should be from your agent, right? So when you start working with your agent will recommend typically a lender. And usually they're a lender that they've been working with or they've closed some deals with before. So, and because they have that connection to the agent, they'll probably have better customer service with you versus somebody they just randomly found them online or something like that has no connection to anybody else. So one is your agent's recommendation, your current bank or credit union, and then the last one is an online bank or a mortgage broker. So those are the 3 that I recommend that you go to. And you can do all of them. It doesn't take very long to do a mortgage application if you're organized, because you're going to have to upload your bank statements and upload your check stubs and that sort of thing. Once you gather all of those things together, you can apply to 3 pretty easily because everything's online. Thank you, Shamika. All right, Yvonne, I will watch the video. Thank you. I pulled out of 3 contracts, unable to negotiate repairs. The 4th home seller backed out due to probate course issues. I've used your videos as refresher courses. Yeah. One thing that you can do, Yvonne, next time is have the agent ask the seller. These are the things that my client is thinking about asking for, and see if they would be even open to those things before you put an offer on it. Because a lot of times you can tell what needs to be done or things that need to be addressed in the seller's disclosure, even before you do your inspection. And Jamal and I, one of the inspectors that I've done videos with, he talks about evaluating the house before you do your home inspection. So if there are like some expensive things that you know that you're going to be asking for, then just have your agent ask the seller up front, say, hey, my client's more than likely going to ask for this, this, and this. Is that something your seller would even consider? And that could maybe stop some of those back and forth where you're terminating these contracts because of, you can't negotiate the repairs. So I would recommend that as much as possible. Try to get as much information up front to see if they'll be willing to do certain things or not. All right, good question. All right, Rhonda. Hey, Shahid, I closed on Friday. Congratulations. Interest rate 7.25. That's pretty much the going rate right now. And seller paid closing costs. Congratulations, Rhonda. All right, Lynette. How much emergency money should we put away for a home emergency? I don't separate emergency funds like home emergencies versus regular emergencies, because typically like an emergency happens. It could be something that you lose your job or the HVAC goes out, but usually things don't happen all at once. So I would say 1 emergency fund, and the general rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of expenses. So, if your expenses every month to cover everything you have to pay for are $3,000, minimum you want is $9,000, $9,000 to $18,000 saved, like just sitting in a money market account or a high yield savings account. You want that just sitting there. If you are in a job that is not that's commission based or something that's not as consistent, like real estate is not as consistent. You might have a closing 1 month and 2 closings next month, or no closings the next month, right? So things that are not consistent, and if you're retired where you're on a fixed income, you may want to up that to about 12 months of expenses. And then you could cover anything that might come up, and then you just rebuild it after, you have, a major expense. Good question, Lynette. All right, Tabitha says, congratulations to all the new buyers. You guys do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. Comments. All right. Good job. Good job. Clark said, I was talking about the home warranty. Yes, I agree with that home warranty. All right, let me go back up. Let's see. Do you think that interest rates are going to go down soon? I heard some speculation that they will due to the upcoming election. Okay, I'm going to do a video soon about what happens, what's likely to happen. Say Trump gets elected, what's likely to happen with housing if Biden gets elected. But I think for the most part, interest rates are going to stay pretty kind of where they are because inflation is not showing that it's going down as quickly as they thought, or the Federal Reserve thought. The economy is still pretty strong. People are still spending money, that sort of thing. So interest rates are probably going to stay kind of, where they are. There's not going to be significant Fed rate cuts. The next meeting, I believe, is in July, and a lot of people are saying there's not going to be a cut. But it really depends on how, the consumer price and the CPI numbers come in, the job numbers come in. If those are reduced or those are lower, more layoffs, then they may do some cuts. But for the most part, I think most people are saying, economists are saying that they may stay at this rate for a little while longer, and maybe not until the fall will there be a rate cut, which is around the election, right? But I'll give you a better idea. I don't think it's going to matter that much. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be a separate and non-political entity, basically, where they make decisions based on the economy and not necessarily the election. But, the election could be kind of crazy depending on what happens. So I'll do a video to kind of explain it a little bit more. But for right now, I think at least through the summer, we're going to look at interest rates in the high 6s, low 7s. Another but for chair. What are some current Biden assistances for people who want to buy or sell? There's none that I know of. There's nothing that is like a law or past program that he has or the Biden administration has for people that want to buy or sell. But I did a full video on down payment assistance, and there's a program in every single state. So if you're looking for help with buying a house, there are already programs that have been passed for your state. Watch that video. I have a link in there for every program in every state. Thank you for that question. All right. All right. Eartha, hi. Can you share your thoughts on purchasing land in the Florida area? All right. So Florida as a whole is one of the states right now that are going through where it's very expensive to purchase insurance. So I want to make sure that I know it's just land, it's not a house, but just know that that's one of the things. If you're buying in Florida, especially if you're on the coast or close to the beaches, that sort of thing, you want to make sure you're doing those quotes on insurance before you're thinking about the total cost of buying a home in Florida, because the house may be affordable, but the insurance may be very expensive. So make sure you're aware of that. Now, buying land, I've done a video building a house on your own land. So there's really a lot of things you need to think about, especially if you are thinking about buying land and then building a house on it. And a lot of first-time home buyers don't necessarily think about those things ahead of time. All land you cannot build on. So you're going to have to do soil testing. You need to do zoning to see what kind of homes can be built there. So watch the video. It's called Building a House on Your Own Land. Watch that video, and then you'll get a good idea of how you should move forward. So that's my answer, Eartha. All right, thank you for the question. Hello, Angelica. You're not late. I'm late because I was supposed to go live at 7 Eastern Standard Time, and I didn't go live until 8 o'clock. So yes, you're not late. I'm late. Okay. Tabitha, hi. I'm in North Carolina. How much or how many down payment assistance programs can you apply for? This is a very good question. And I answered it in that live, but I'm going to answer it again tonight. It really depends. And I know y'all hate to hear that, but it depends on the program. So some programs you can use one program with another program and they work together. Typically, they're usually city and state programs that work together. So, say that your state has a program, but they really want to incentivize people to move to a certain city in that state, then you may be able to use both of those programs together. But if it's something like, oh, Bank of America has a grant and then the state has a grant, can you use those two things together? That's typically no. So you have to do your research to find out, number one, what are all the programs that I qualify for? And then ask, the different program administrators, can I use this and this? And I would just ask them, because they know they close these or they give out this money a lot. They know what programs can work with theirs. So you just ask them, are there any other programs that your buyers use that will give them additional money that will work with your program? So just, that's what I would do to make sure that you're getting the most, they call it stacking for the most part, like stacking down payment assistance, where, you'll see something on social media. I got $75,000 in down payment assistance, and they were able maybe to stack different programs. But you're gonna have to do that research ahead of time. A lot of people, they get their pre-approval, then they try to get, and then they start looking for a house, then they do down payment assistance. That's backwards. You need to start with like, okay, I got my pre-approval, let me research what, or maybe research down payment assistance and then get your pre-approval. You want to make sure you have all that information ahead of time before you even start looking for a house. Okay. Because, a lot of people get under contract, then they ask their lender, oh, do I qualify for any down payment assistance? And you only have 30 days to close. And to get the down payment assistance takes 45 days. So you just want to make sure you're doing that legwork ahead of time. All right. Good job. Good job. Okay. Let me see. GOAT. I am currently going through underwriting. Okay, good job. Underwriting is not easy for a VA loan, and the lender is not accepting my military reserve pay as income due to having an 8-month break in service. Is this decision per VA code? Thank you for thinking that I'm I know all the codes. I do not know that. I'm assuming that they have, so when you're going through underwriting, imagine this, and I have an underwriting video. They have all the FHA guidelines, they have the VA guidelines, they have the conventional guidelines, Fannie, Freddie, they have all the guidelines. So when they're asking you for things, they are trying to make sure you fit into those guidelines. Now, if you were working with someone that does a lot of VA loans, the lender, before you even get to underwriting, and this is why it's a good idea to do underwriting ahead of time if you can, they would kind of bring that up to you. Oh, when's your last time that you've been reserved? They'll know the right questions to ask you ahead of time. So maybe, right, this person has not done, the lender, not the underwriter, has not done as many VA loans, so they didn't know to ask you these things ahead of time. But there's always wiggle room, not always, but sometimes there's wiggle room with some of these guidelines. So I would ask your lender, go back to your lender and say, is there a supervisor or somebody else we can talk to? You also can call the VA. There's usually somebody in the VA, the Veterans Administration, that might be able to help you. I did a video. If you go to my live tab, all of my live videos for Veterans Day last year, not this year, or one of these Veterans Days, I did a video with a lender that specializes in VA loans. You should email him and he'll be able to tell you for sure whether or not you can get around that stipulation. So go ahead and look there. That's my best advice for you, is to watch that video and try to get his information. He has a YouTube channel as well, and he may be able to help you with that. Because I would say that usually there's some kind of wiggle room sometimes with some of the VA guidelines, or underwriting can make some exceptions for a few things. So I would try to do that, especially if it's going to stop you from buying the house. All right, thank you for your service. But watch that video. Go. All right, thank you, Ms. Amra. My moderator posted my masterclass in the comments. I recommend that you get that masterclass because here's the thing. We're going into a time period in which buyers are not going to be highly sought after, especially if, you know, and you've paid attention to some of my videos, especially if the sellers are not going to be publicizing or offering commission to your buyer's agent. A lot of people are like, okay, we need to focus on sellers. We need to focus on sellers because that's guaranteed money where buyers may not be as guaranteed, right? So you have to know how to advocate for yourself. You have to know what your agent, if you do hire one, should be doing. How they should be doing it. You don't want to just leave everything in somebody else's hand that may not value your business. So definitely go ahead and get my masterclass. I have a little ad that I usually run. I'm not going to do that because I was late today, but definitely check it out. I have all my reviews and everything there as well. All right. Thank you, Yvonne. All right. Who is better, a mortgage broker or a lender? This is a good question. So to me, they're almost equal. And I know mortgage brokers will say they are better. And I recorded 2 videos recently. And one is why you shouldn't use certain lenders. And here's the thing with mortgage brokers. So mortgage brokers advertise themselves as lenders that can shop you around with all of these different lenders. They're not lenders themselves, but they can get any lender for you, and they'll find you the best deal because they have access to all of these lenders. That's what a broker is. And a lender is more of a direct, like you only can use me, and you use me and the money's coming from us, right? So the thing that doesn't get explained that well, I think, for brokers is that most brokers use the same lenders over and over. So you may have access to say they have access to 100 different lenders. They're probably closed with about 2 of them on average, right? They use the same 2 over and over and over. Now, the mortgage broker will say, well, I use the 2 that generally have the best rates for my clients. But it's like just going to one person. It's not really like going to a broker. It's like going to one lender for the most part. So I always tell people, just because the broker says I can shop you around does not mean that you don't need to get another quote. So a broker is one of your quotes, your agent, whoever they recommend, is another quote, and then your current bank or credit union is your other quote. So at least you've done your due diligence, right? To say, okay, I know that I've gotten the best rate. You don't know, like, well, give me a list of everybody you shopped me around with. They're not going to be able to tell you that. And most of them they close consistently with the same 1 or 2 lenders. All right, thank you for that question. And I've done a video with Matt, the mortgage broker, where we kind of explain that. All right, thank you guys. Okay. Tojo, I'm a first-time home buyer. What info do I need ready before I talk to anyone? And who should I talk to when I'm ready to get a loan? All right, so the info you need is pretty much your income information, income and credit information for the most part. So, and they'll be able to find that from your check stubs, your bank statements, and then they're going to pull your credit. So those are the things you want to start gathering. I do have a video about your mortgage application. So if you just put mortgage application, if you search my channel, that video will come up and it's going to tell you everything you need for your mortgage application. So I would watch that. And then you said, who should I talk to? I usually recommend the agent first and let the agent recommend a lender to you. But a lender, of course, is going to tell you to go to the lender first. So either one, but you want to gather up as much information as possible. Watch the video that Kevin and I both did about the pre-approval process. That usually opens up a lot of eyes. That's why I recommend that as one of the videos that people should watch, because it's me and Kevin going back and forth about, okay, what about this? And when they do this, what happens then? And it kind of shows you behind the scenes of what a lender is doing during that pre-approval process. So I recommend that you gather your documents up and do some of those mortgage calculators. So you can figure out, okay, how much would my mortgage payment be if, I bought a $300,000 house, or if I bought a, $400,000 house. So you have an idea of what you want to spend in your own budget before you even talk to a lender to say, okay, I probably need to be in the ballpark of 300,000 or 500,000 or 700,000. You kind of run some numbers with those mortgage calculators ahead of time. I like NerdWallet mortgage calculators and bank rate mortgage calculators. They pretty much have all of the different calculators you need as far as home buying is concerned. All right, thank you. All right, question, lovely Lisa. Hey, I have a $19,000 debt that is barring to pre-approval. I think you mean that is, let me read the rest. My lender is suggesting I wait a year before attempting to settle the debt. I am unsure. What should I do? I was encouraged to pay off my car. You're talking about a lot of different things. Okay. Okay, so first, your lender's recommending that you try to settle the debt, but wait a year. I don't know why they're recommending that you wait a year, but I'm sure they had a reason at the time to tell you to wait. I think if you have all of these things outstanding and they're stopping you from getting a pre-approval, it's not a bad idea to kind of look, in the next year or so and try to get your finances together before you try to just to kind of because what can happen is, even if you're able to push through and get something done and to buy a house, your interest rate is probably going to be higher because your credit score is not as strong. And then they may require some additional funds because, normally you're not required to pay reserves when you're doing a mortgage. But if they feel like your credit is bad, they may require you to pay some of your mortgage pay, like have that money saved ahead of time. So I would say if it may not be the right time. It's fine for you to take this year if that's what they're suggesting and pay off some debt, get into a better financial position so you're in a stronger place when it's time for you to actually buy a house. So because I don't know all of the details, I think that would be my recommendation, that you spend the next year getting your credit together, getting your debt together, paying down some things, because then your debt to income ratio is going to be stronger, your credit score is going to be stronger, and you'll be in a better position to buy. And prices aren't going up crazy like they were going like 20% more every year. They're kind of leveling off, if not getting a little bit less expensive because there's more competition. More people have decided to list their house in some cities. So yeah, it's fine to take a year to get your finances together before you buy again. Okay, Miss Smile. Hi Shahida, I'm in the market of buying. One builder in the area that I'm looking is offering a 4.75 for 5 years, and the other builder's offering 3.99. How do you feel about ARM rates? Okay, so I have a video for everything. But my first mortgage was an ARM, so I'm not against them. But I think you need to understand what you're getting into ahead of time, right? So a lot of people are pushing ARMs and they're saying this. They're saying, these are lenders, hey, well, you'll get this 4.75 for 5 years, maybe the 3.75, maybe for 3 years. I'm not sure. And then after that, you will be able to refinance and, you'll be able to afford it, right? And that's not always going to be the case. So you have to be, upfront and knowledgeable about how ARMs work and say, okay, if the only way you can afford that home is if the payment is if the more interest rate is at 4.75%, but if it was to go up to, say it was to adjust, and they usually have maximum amounts they can adjust each year. If it was to go up to 6.5, could you still afford it? You want to make sure, because a refinance is not guaranteed. Let me give you an example. Say that when it's time for you to refinance, the house is not worth as much as you thought it was going to be worth, and then the lender won't refinance that house for you. So the interest rate is going to adjust, and you need to make sure you can afford that payment. So my advice to anybody doing an ARM is, don't count on, if the only way you can afford that house is because of the lower interest rate, you can't afford that house. If you could buy that house at the current market rate, and you're just going to have like a lower rate for the first 5 years, and that could save you some money, then go ahead and do that. But a lot of people, the only way they can afford that house at that price is at that lower rate. So when it adjusts, they can't afford it. And so, but the lender says you'll be able to refinance. If you're not able to refinance, you still can't afford it. Hope that makes sense. So I only recommend ARMs if, even after the time passes, whatever that is, you can afford it at that higher rate. And I've done that video. I've done a video on ARMs, and I've done a video on buying down your rate. So all of those things, I just don't want the assumption to be, because we don't know what's going to happen in the economy, right? So if things do kind of flatline and you don't have as much equity in that house, and they're like, oh, we're not going to refinance because we don't think your house is worth what you paid for it, then you're going to be stuck, and you don't want to get stuck. So it's not a bad idea. When I did my ARM, I did a 7-year ARM, and I thought I was with who's now my husband, but we were like dating for like 5 years. So he'll probably laugh at this. And I was like, we're going to get married, but I'm going to buy my house because I'm not waiting on him, that sort of thing. But in the back of my mind, I was like, we'll get married soon, and I'm not going to always be in this house. So long story short, I did a 7-year ARM, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to be out this house in 7 years. And I was able to sell it after year 3 because he got to his senses, and we got married, shortly after that. So just know that, have a plan. And I did 7 years. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to get stuck. I didn't do like 1 year, because people, at that time were offering 1-year ARMs and 2-year ARMs. I did a 7-year ARM. So just be really knowledgeable about what you're doing ahead of time, and don't just get an ARM because that's what you can afford with the hopes of refinancing. All right. Thank you, guys. Let's see. All right. I'm going to get this thing together. It's annoying. All right. Mandy. Hello, Ms. Hill. Is it ethical for an agent to represent themselves as a seller and a buyer for a home purchase without notifying the seller? What would you suggest a seller do if this happened? Let me say this again. Is it ethical for an agent to represent themselves as a seller and a buyer for a home purchase without notifying the seller? I'm very confused. How would I represent myself as a seller and a buyer? Okay, Mandy, reword this question, because I want to answer it correctly. So, are you the agent buying the house, or is your agent trying to represent you as a listing agent and as a buyer's agent? Which one are you asking? Are you asking as a real estate agent trying to buy, or are you asking that can your agent represent you and the seller? Just clarify that for me. And my moderator, if she pops back up with a clarification, then pop her thing back up. All right, Pilar, if a buyer buys down their rate, do you recommend they refinance after they reach the break-even point? Let me think about this. All right, so you break even on the buy down, and then you refinance, then you really didn't make any money. Like, it didn't make any sense, right? So I would hope that you have some more room. When you break even, that means that the money that you saved is equal to the money that you paid for the buy down, right? So you haven't made any money. That's the whole point of the break even. So it only makes sense for you don't reap any benefit until after you break even by saving on that payment over time, right? So I would hope that the refinance would have to be significantly less, right, than your current interest rate in order for all of these numbers to make sense. Because if I just wait and refinance when I break even, I haven't really gained anything necessarily, because I paid the interest up front. If I'm doing a buy down, I paid the interest up front. Say it took me 3 years to break even, then I'm refinancing. The refinancing interest rate would have to be significantly lower for me to make any money. If I was just going to refinance in 3 years, I would keep my money and then just refinance, right? So I think that does not make sense but I don't know what the refinance interest rate is either. So I did a video on the breakdown, the buy down, and whether or not it makes sense. And we talk about that break even point. But just know this, if I have to pay $5,000 up front for a lower interest rate, and then I'm saving $50 a month, it's going to take me some years, right, to make back that $5,000. And then if as soon as, that I break even, I refinance, then a refinance is not free. So there's going to be another break even on that refinance, right? Because most refinances do not cost you money. So you're going to have two break evens after that, because now you have to break even on the refinance. I hope that makes sense, Pilar, but you have to run those numbers. So like slow down when, these lenders are giving you loan estimates, really look at the numbers. You're smart to know that, okay, I'm going to have a break even point. And then you have to think, okay, at what rate does it make sense for me to refinance? That's your next thing. And then how much does a refinance cost? Do that research and you'll find out, okay, should I keep this money and go with the higher rate and then just refinance, or should I spend this money, then I refinance? You're doing a lot of things at once. All right, thank you for that question. All righty. All right, Yvonne, what are your thoughts on a first lien HELOC when a home has 100% equity? And do all HELOCs have variable rates? So home equity lines of credit do have variable rates, but home equity loans have fixed rates. So if you want a fixed rate, get a home equity loan. So I don't have a problem with it necessarily, depending on what you're using it for. So yeah, it really depends on what you're using it for. I usually don't tell people to do home equity loans on like a upgrade of their house. I want to redo my kitchen, I'm going to get a home equity loan, because that's not really a need, that's a want. And you could save, I'd rather you save up and do that kitchen remodel slowly versus putting your house up. Because when you are taking any kind of loan against your house, where your house is collateral for that loan, if you at any point cannot pay that loan, they can come and foreclose on your house. A house that you have is 100% paid off. So you're taking this 100% paid off house. That's what 100% equity means. You have no mortgage on your house, right? So there's no mortgage on your house, and you're going to do something. Say, I want to redo my kitchen, and you're going to take out a loan, and then you can't pay that loan, and you're putting your house at risk for something that's cosmetic. Now, there might be some other things that are more pressing that you feel like, okay, this is something that, number one, I can afford the payment. It's a very easy payment, and it's almost like an investment, or something that, say you needed $20,000 to start a business, or something that you've been working for a long time, but you need to invest this amount for something that's going to make you money. That's something I probably would be more comfortable doing, especially if you have like a lot of track record. You already started the business, you have some information about it, and you have more than enough income to cover the payment. But to do something, it really depends on what you're using the home equity loan for and whether or not I think it makes sense. All right, good question. All right, Jasmine, my student loan is in deferment. How would it impact buying a home about getting approved for a home loan? Okay, so student loans don't stop you from buying a house, but all student loans, with a couple of exceptions, are going to be included into your debt to income ratio, even if you are not making a payment on that student loan. So I have a video about can you afford a house, and I break down debt to income ratios. And I have a video about student loans, because every loan type looks at your student loans differently. So if you're getting an FHA loan, they look at it one way. You're getting a conventional loan, depending on whether you're getting it from Fannie or Freddie Mac, they look at it differently. If you're getting a VA loan, they look at your student loans differently. If you're getting a USDA loan, they look at your student loans differently. So first, it depends on what kind of loan you're getting. So figure that out first, and then that's how they're going to look at your student loans. Either they're going to use 0.5%. So if you owe $100,000 in student loans, 1% would be $1,000, and some of them will, make you put $1,000 in your debt to income ratio, even if they're on deferment. And then some will put $500, like 0.5%, in your debt to income ratio. That is one of the only things that will stop you from buying, because now your debt to income ratio with your student loans is too high. There are other loan types that if you're not in deferment, but you're on an income-based plan, and the income-based plan, the calculation is a zero, they'll use zero. It really just depends on what kind of loan you have. So it's very important. Number one, they will more than likely count your student loans unless you're, so some lenders are going to tell you, come out of deferment, get on one of these payment plans, and then the payment plan amount or the income-based amount might be lower than what they're going to use as far as your debt to income ratio if you're in deferment. Hope that makes sense, but watch that video. It says like all of your, just, Google my page, search on my page and put student loans, and then watch my most recent student loan video. It's probably 2 years ago, but it's still accurate. And it tells you for every loan how they're going to look at your, how they're going to factor that payment into your student loan ratio. The main point to be mindful of, just because you're on deferment does not mean that your student loan debt doesn't count. Okay. All right. Mandy, have you worked with lenders that don't have rates posted, making the tracking process difficult, having to call if wanting to find out what the current interest rate is? I don't know of any lenders most lenders do not post their interest rates every day. They just don't. I don't think that's not uncommon that lenders don't. I mean, you can ask because they change every day. If you want to look at something like Mortgage News Daily, then they have just general averages and they'll go up and down based on what's happening in the economy. But your lender gets a rate sheet every single day with the different interest rates, and most don't share those. So you have to have a reason that you want to see it every day. And okay, you have to have a reason why you want to see it every day. And if it's about locking your interest rate, you want to have that conversation with your lender ahead of time to say, okay, once I'm under contract, I need to be in more communication with you about locking my interest rate and when I should lock it. And I have videos about locking your interest rate and what you should discuss with them ahead of time. You don't want to get under contract and say, because a lot of lenders will just go ahead and lock your rate as soon as you're under contract. And so looking at a rate every day doesn't even matter. So just be mindful of that. So I'm trying to answer your question or trying to think about why you're asking that question, but watch my when should you lock your rate video, and that'll become more clear. But it's not uncommon that lenders don't post their rates every day online. All right, we're about at 9:00. So usually during this time, and thank you guys for joining me. I'm at 127, and I know I was late today, so I do really appreciate it. I'm going to take, since I'm at 9:00, I'm going to take 9 more questions. So one of the questions, sorry, like and subscribe, please do that. Is title insurance worth it for a new build? So I want everyone, if you just have general questions, I have a Facebook group and I'm very active in that Facebook group. So a lot of these questions people have asked me already. So you can always search in there. If you can't find me live, if you don't see it in a video, that's another place you can search. So is title insurance worth it for a new build? The answer is yes, but I can understand why you may want to not have this additional cost. But you need some additional, you're making a big investment. This is why you should just get it. You're making a big investment and you want to make sure that that investment is protected. The chances of something going wrong with the title on a new build is less or lower than if you're doing a resale. So for those of you that don't know what title insurance is, so once you have a property, it may have gone from several different people. Maybe somebody died, maybe something happened as that property has changed from owner to owner, that sort of thing. And so title insurance protects you if the title wasn't transferred properly from one owner to the next. So with resales, it's a no-brainer. You should get it because you don't know, who may come up later saying that they have some kind of claim to that property. So you should definitely get on a resale. New construction, what most buyers are thinking, the builder bought this land, they're building these houses, there hasn't been a lot of title changes, so the risk is a little bit less. So I do agree that the risk is less, but it's not that there's no risk, right? Because you don't know who that builder bought the land from and if there are going to be any claims to that land. I don't have I need to look it up, but there was like a big case some years ago where a builder had bought a land from a family, and they thought that family was clear to sell that land to them, but there were some heirs that weren't considered that owned a portion of that land. So they came back to the builder to try to sue and get that land back. And people with title insurance were protected. Some of the other people weren't. It was something along those lines. So although there's less risk with new construction, there is still a risk. So go ahead and buy it. That's my final answer, because even though the risk is small, it's something that you still want to protect your investment from. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And you guys can ask your title insurance, your closing attorney, or your title insurance company why they would recommend that you get it on new construction. They may have some additional answers that they can share with you. All right, I inherited a house. Could I still apply for down payment assistance? My answer to this, it depends. So it depends on the program, and it depends on your state. So some down payment assistance programs don't allow you to own any property. Some don't allow you to have had a mortgage in your name before. So the answer is maybe. You need to I know for sure some programs do allow you to say, like, your grandparents have left you a house, that sort of thing. And you're still a first-time home buyer. You've never bought a house by yourself, then they may still allow you to do it. Others will not if you have title or a deed in your name. So you need to ask what programs you're thinking about using if you still can qualify. And then a lot of them also have asset restrictions. So if the asset is worth a significant amount, they may exclude you from purchasing as well. So the answer is maybe. So that's 2 out of the 9. So I have 7 more that I'm going to answer. All right. Anna Gatto. Hello, I've just sent in my documents to purchase using USDA. Am I required to take a borrower's buyer class? Typically, no, not for just regular USDA loans. You don't have to take a class because you're not getting down payment assistance. A lot of times with down payment assistance, you're required to take a class before they give you the assistance. With USDA, it's more of like an FHA program. It's a government mortgage program, like FHA, VA, the same kind of thing. There's typically not a class required. So good question. 6 more. Let's see. All right, I'll put my link to my first time homebuyer masterclass already. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mandy, I do have a website. I don't have a website myself, but there are 2 websites that I recommend. I posted them several times. I will post it to my community page by tomorrow morning because I can't get it right now. It's too much going on. But there is a site that will tell you the average interest rates people are getting in your state, and then Mortgage News Daily. So I will post the websites that I recommend that you guys use. There's 3 of them that I recommend. So I'll post that to my community page on my channel by tomorrow. I'll make a note of that so I don't forget. But yeah, there's 3 that I recommend. It's Mortgage News Daily. And the other one is from the Consumer Protection Bureau, and they have every state and the average interest rates per state. So I'll post those. All right. Thank you, Mandy. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Clark the Realtor is answering some questions in the chat. I appreciate it. All right. All right, Sandy, I think I answered this question already. Hello, I'm looking to buy a home in the near future. Does it make any sense to take a variable rate instead of a fixed rate? Because rates may come down during the life of my mortgage. I answered this question a little bit already, Sandy, about ARMs. So ARMs are adjustable rate mortgages, variable rates. Anytime the rate changes, it's a variable rate, or they'll call them adjustable rate mortgages. So you have to really look at the chances of it adjusting up is also possible. So you just want to make sure that you've done your due diligence, you've done your budget, and that you can afford the house even at the higher interest rate. And if you cannot refinance quickly, so say rates stay higher for longer and you're unable to refinance when you thought you were going to refinance, then you want to be able to still be able to afford the house. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. DJ Red, do closed paid off credit card accounts count into your DTI? No, they don't, because there's no balance. So when lenders are looking at your DTI or calculating your DTI, they're only looking at the minimum monthly payment for credit card debt. So say that you owe on a credit card, $2,000, but your minimum monthly payment is $75. That $75 is what's calculated into your debt to income ratio. So if you have a zero balance, there's no monthly payment required. So that credit card is not calculated into that DTI ratio. But good question. But yeah, so if you have paid off credit cards, even though you have the available credit, you don't have any debt. You don't owe anything. So they're not going to include that into your debt to income ratio. Good question. I think I have 4 more. All right. Are the fees associated with refinancing similar to the closing costs associated with the purchase or sale of a home? What items are specifically included? The answer is yes. Mandy getting a lot of these questions in today. So yes. What she's asking me is, are the fees for refinancing similar to the home purchase? The answer is yes. So you'll have prepaids, and then you'll have just the regular loan costs, because lenders are not refinancing your home for free. So they're going to be charging you something. And then if you're setting up escrows, if you don't have at least 20% equity doing conventional, you still have to set up escrows with the new lender. So those are all included as well. You will get an escrow refund typically from your old, like one mortgage company is going to pay off the other mortgage company. And so they'll give you a refund of your escrow payments, but they're very similar. They're typically not as high for a refinance cost as a home purchase, but you are going to have some, costs associated with it. You should, if you're trying to get an idea ahead of time, just ask your lender to give you a loan estimate on a refinance. They do them often, so they should be able to give it to you. They don't know what the interest rate is going to be, but they can kind of give you an estimate of how much you would typically have to pay. All right, so 3 more. Okay. Let me see. I think we're trying to go back to this question. I'm sorry. Working as an agent and a buyer, not a seller and a buyer. Okay. Yeah. So Mandy, I'm assuming you're a real estate agent. Let me go with this really quickly. So you're a real estate agent and you're representing yourself. Then you're able to keep any commission. I forgot your original question, but if you're an agent and you're representing yourself as a buyer, you are able to, think of yourself as 2 separate people, even though you're one person. You are representing yourself, but you'll be filling out forms, to get your commission as if you're representing yourself. So you'll get your commission. Your lender will allow you to get paid that commission at closing, or a lot of them will allow you to use the commission that they were going to pay you for your down payment and closing costs. I think that's the question you're asking me. If not, put it in my Facebook group and I'll be able to answer it better. Because I don't remember your first question 100%. All right. I am blessed by the best. When you are approved for homestead exemption, how do you know? Call your tax commissioner, or whoever you applied for the exemption with. Call them and ask them, did you get approved for it? They'll be able to tell you. You don't want to necessarily wait until your tax bill comes out. Your tax bill will have what exemptions you qualify for and what exemptions have been applied to your taxes, but you may not want to wait for that. So just go ahead and call them and say, hey, I did the application for homestead exemption to save on my taxes. Was it approved? They'll be able to tell you. Have you already discussed selling a house now? This live was a little bit wonky, so I did not. But my last live, we went over everything you need to do to sell your house. So watch that live. But I planned on talking about selling your house this summer, buying your house this summer. Got off the rails a little bit because I was late. All right, I think we're good. I'm going to answer 2 more. How long does it take you to get your deed in the mail? Depends on your state or your county or wherever you closed, the city or county you closed in. But I would say no more than a month. But at closing, ask your title company, what are they seeing on average, or ask your closing attorney, what are they seeing on average, and they should be able to let you know. But I would say a month after closing. If you don't get it within a month, you probably should be calling. Watch my video on 10 things to do after closing, and then it tells you some of the fraudulent things you're going to see, because people will try to sell you your deed even though you get it for free. So be very mindful. As soon as you close, you're going to get all this mail, people trying to sell you things you don't need. And one of those things will be, we'll give you a copy of your deed for only $65 or something along those lines. But your deed is going to come to you for free. You've already paid for it with your closing costs. So be mindful of that. But I would say if you don't see anything within a month, then call your closing attorney, your title company, to make sure it was ordered and when they think you should have it. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The moderator did put some things in here. I'm going to end. Thank you, R. Rambert, for the $20 super sticker. I really appreciate it. I'm going to end on this note. I really appreciate you hanging in with me late, because I know I'm normally not this late in the day for my lives. My next live is June 18th. I promise I will be on time. I promise I'll be here at 7 o'clock. Thank you so much. If you have further questions, put them in the comments or join my Facebook group and ask them in there. You guys have a good night.